How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of Live Tier Talk Q&A. I think it's going to be a great episode. I got my partner in crime today, Russ Hamilton. Russ, why I share this out, Russ? Do you mind introducing yourself?
Oh, no, not at all, Anthony. I'm Russ Ham. What's that?
I want to know if you mind introducing yourself real quick. Why I share it out.
There was a little bit of feedback. Yeah, my name's Russ Hamilton. I had 27 years with California Department of Corrections. I started San Quentin way back in 1989. I went on from that to retire to ended up doing some work in the juvenile detention facility here in my local county. Now I work for a private vendor, and we contract with the local probation department here, providing services like reentry and rehabilitation for those that are on probation and parole.
All right, now, guys, real quick, we have to get our sponsors in. First sponsor is American Military University. So if you guys are looking to get a degree, a great online degree, by the way, bring some experience into the classrooms, please check out American Military University. They're a great sponsor. They've been sponsoring me since day one, but more importantly, they do sponsor the whole profession of corrections. They believe in what we do, which is probably the most important part of our connection. We also have today's video is brought to you by Guardian RFID. From inmate tracking and cell checks to cloud-based businesses and artificial intelligence, Guardian RFID digitally transforms jails, prisons, and juvenile detention facilities of every size. Visit GuardianRFID.com for more information. And we also have the wrap. Let me just add this here. Hold on one second. Make sure I read everything fully. There it goes. Controlling combative subjects quickly and in an upright position so they can breathe has never been more important. Departments such as Washington, D.C., LA County, San Diego County, hundreds of other facilities across the U.S. trust and believe in the wrap restraint. That's the wrap, W-R-A-P. Go to saferestraints.com for contact information and mention Tier Talk to receive instructor training at no cost. Lower liability for your facility and your personnel with the wrap. Give the wrap a call today, 800-WRAP-911. And guys, if you don't know what the wrap is, there's going to be a link to a video in the description. Hey, Russ, real quick, Russ. I know we have a lot of topics we could discuss. Now, guys, by the way, this is a live Q&A, so whatever you want to ask us. We're here to answer it. But I want people to know something. We've been watching some videos recently on staff assaults. Hey, Russ, how hard is it for someone who has been assaulted to get the courage to come back to work again?
Well, that's one of those things. It can be just like, that really, mind screw with yourself about, just how safe you can stay in that environment. I've had my share of run-ins and assaults, and it's always there in your head rolling around, and it has to be one of those things where you just pick yourself up and you go back in and you dive right back in as fast as you can, but you have to be ready at the same time. So, I've had a lot of friends that have, had, some career-ending injuries. I've known some people that just, their head wasn't in the game after then. But I think most people are, able to deal with it and able to deal with the aftermath and able to make those good adjustments that keep you coming, back, because it's a great profession. It doesn't have to be something that just, completely takes you out of your career just because you have, some bad experiences and some bad things happen. It's part of the nature of the industry. That doesn't mean that we're cannon fodder. It's just one of those elements of risk that we have to look at, that we have to mitigate, and that we have to, try and make some allowance for.
Yeah, and also with the family too. You got to have that discussion with your family. I know some officers who have been really badly assaulted, but they do have to go back to work, and having that dialogue with their family. In some cases, most of them avoided it. But the problem is that when they avoid the dialogue with the family about them going back to try to get everybody on the same page, they become very distracted at work because they are kind of very concerned about what their family thinks about them going back, as opposed to addressing it with their family and having that hard dialogue. I know a lot of us, the dangers of the job is always present. But once it really happens, Once someone does get assaulted, now it's real. So remember, for your family, they may know of the dangers of the job, and of course they're worried, but it adds when you've actually been assaulted. Now it's no longer a worry, it's reality. So now the concern is going to be you going back to work, and them thinking, like, I know in some cases one of the spouses had a lot of problems with having their husband go back to work. So then the spouse was quick to say, you promised yourself to me, not to this profession. But of course, the person can't just leave the profession either. I mean, this is a career for them. It's a job. So you got to have that realistic dialogue. And if you're a spouse of someone that works in corrections, or a loved one, you got to understand their circumstances. They may not be able just to leave the profession. And we want to make sure that their mindset right now is focused at 100% of where it needs to be, which is working that unit and doing their job. And we want to make sure that they remain focused. And as for management, management's always quick to see if the person has healed physically, but they're not as concerned with the mental part of it all. So before someone does come back to work, there should be some level of evaluation there, because again, working in a prison, you can't escape the environment. So there's going to be so many triggers there, and you need to make sure that that person's okay with the things that they're going to be exposed to, because the last you want is to put someone in there that's not okay mentally. They may think they are, but they're not. And next thing you know, things trigger them, whether it's the inmate uniform, the smell, the location. And the trigger could either be on one side, hesitant and not moving. On the other side, it could be ultra aggressive. So imagine having to work with that person or rely on that person thinking that they're okay. But in the end, I mean, are we? I mean, hey, Russ, that's got to be one of the tough things. You ever notice, like, even a cop on a beat on the street, if they, let's say, God forbid, something happens to them in a certain location, sometimes they don't have to always go back to that location. Yeah, I mean, it's great that they could to, get some level of strength back, because obviously you do want to, you don't want to ignore it. You want to face it, but at least you could do it in a timely manner, where in corrections, it doesn't work that way. The moment you're brought back, you're going to be put right back into that same environment. There's no avoiding it. And you have to make sure, is this person ready for this type of job? Once again, I don't think management does focus on the mental component. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, sometimes management doesn't even bother to, check on how we're doing, let alone try and be playing that long game where you're looking out for someone's mental health. I think that management should always be in there and saying, hey, do you need a job change out of that area? Do you need some extra time off? And they tend to not be very responsive to those things. And it's just one of those things where you're left kind of fending for yourself. Hopefully, if you watch a video like this and you think about some of these things, maybe you'll be in a better position to understand what it is you're facing, and just to be able to say, okay, you know what, I'm ready to climb back on that horse. I'm ready to go. But it would be nice if we did have more people looking out for us. So you really have to be an advocate for yourself, unfortunately.
Yeah, you have to be open for the right inner dialogue, asking yourself the right questions before you can even think about seeking help. So the key is, I do believe that there should be some process where, okay, you're healed physically, but let's just make sure you're mentally okay. Chuck asked a good question. As a 15-year veteran, don't you think that the qualifications for new hires has dropped so low that it now jeopardizes the safety of staff in the facility? So, I mean, we can comment on this. I don't know if you want to go first, Russ, and I'll feed in.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely something that we've seen in some departments. But by the same token, if you look at the things that have very recently, I mean, just like in the past couple of weeks that have been happening, a lot of departments have been getting more money, more pay, and trying to actually, increase, their standards. So I think there are hopeful things on the horizon. Obviously, because of the nature of corrections in the United States, for instance, that's not going to happen everywhere. We have like 3,700 counties, 50 states, District of Colombia. We have some places offshore in the federal system, like Guam and Puerto Rico. So not every place is necessarily going to see any kind of a positive change, but I do see hope on the horizon. As far as, dealing with those things in your particular department, that's one of those things where, you just got to try and be willing to try and polish those people to a much higher degree than you had to take, your responsibility for, back in the day or whatever. You just got to try and take them under your wing and make them as serviceable as you can.
Yeah, I want to add too. So obviously, there have been concerns. A lot of places have been hiring out of desperation because, we're losing people. We don't have the proper incentives to bring people in, the proper motivation to keep people in. So we have hit a bit of a downward spiral. But what's funny is, like Russ said, we do see some states that are coming ahead and increasing pay. I mean, a good amount too. We're not talking about small amounts. We're talking about a good jump, which we hope invites the right people. But I will say that also we on the front line could do a little more too, because we do have some people that are still entering this profession, more so because maybe it's a calling for them. Regardless of what the pay is. I mean, I get that we want to have the right incentives out there, but that can't be the only motivation, because at the end of the day, the shit that we face doesn't matter what you pay some people. They're just not going to be able to deal with it. So having said that, you do want people that are motivated for the right reasons. Right reasons could be, a calling, figuring that they can find value in this profession. I think that's what we, Tier Talk, Keepers of Chaos, a lot of the venues right now highlight a very good perspective of the correction system, something that people can relate to, that they can align values and beliefs with. So we do have some people that are coming into this profession that are for the right reasons, but then they get partnered with somebody who's disgruntled and miserable, and then we wind up pushing those people out. So I like what Russ was kind of touching on, where basically we can do a little more on our front line to hold on to people. We're going through a culture shift right now. And basically we kind of know where we're headed. As confusing as it may sound for those frontline officers, we know that corrections is going to become a little bit soft before we balance it out. Eventually it's going to get balanced out, because people on the front line, those officers, are going to start getting involved in the dialogue, because one is, I know they're resistant now because of the changes, but eventually they'll come around, because the higher ups are going to realize we can't do this without them. How do we get them invested? We need to get them invested. And I think you'll see more motivation to do that, and more people from the front line who are going to step up and say, hey, these are the things that we need to do to align ourselves with the values that the department's now pushing. That's why if you're a leader right now, it's very important that you connect with the values of the agency, and then be able to kind of, promote those values and stuff, so we can bring people into the positions to have influence, so we can motivate this change that's happening. The sad thing is right now is that even though we're addressing it initially with the people that are coming in, we're not maintaining it, because when they come to the facility, our facilities, that we're surrounded by a lot of people that are just not happy where the profession's going. They feel hopeless. They feel trapped. And the problem is, you partner them up with somebody who is coming into this profession ready to kind of see where it's headed, maybe connected to a purpose or something, and we're losing them because we're partnering them with somebody who doesn't share those same values. They're just disgruntled and they're just not happy. That's why me and Russ make it very, me, Russ, Connie, everybody that we have on the show, William Young, we're also shifting our mindset. The mindset that we're trying to get now is, guys, we have to kind of, amongst the chaos, find some level of positivity and be intentional with it, because the problem is, if we're not, we're going to add to the negativity, and then we become responsible for not doing what we can to bring people into this profession. I mean, I had an email recently from someone who was definitely going to be in it for the right reasons, connected with someone that just wasn't so positive, and kind of made him question everything that we've ever taught on this venue, everything we've ever discussed. So we kind of pushing this person out. So I think what we could do, and Russ again touched on it, is that we may be getting some people that aren't the best candidates, but we have to try to start seeing if there's potential in them that exists instead of just giving up right at the get-go. Now, I do believe those increases in pay are going to start bringing in better people, but a lot of it is the people that they connect to on the front line. Can we cultivate somebody? I mean, we can't just listen. We all were new. We all were lost when we come in. So, is there a chance that we can cultivate the people that are coming in? But here's the but. We can only cultivate and help them grow if we ourselves are willing to grow. So if we ourselves are expecting to cultivate somebody on a past view of corrections, on the old school style, that's not what we're doing. We can't. You're going to remain stagnant. What you got to do is you yourself have to be willing to grow, and then you can cultivate other people into that growth. And the key here is finding some way to align yourself with the right values that connect yourself to this profession at that highest level. And I'm telling you guys something, the people that are coming in now, because there's more research available, there's more information they can get, they're coming in with an idea of what they feel they can get from this career. They are, some of them, the good ones that we want are. So now when you partner them with somebody, you have to partner them with somebody that can help motivate them, because if you don't have that, guys, these people are going to leave. So the people that are in it for the right reasons, that are coming in, that could be seen in it for the right reasons, we're not doing what we can at that front line to kind of keep them in and help them grow, because us ourselves, we just don't want to move forward because we're so upset where the system is headed. It's tough, guys. It's tough, because if you're not intentional with this, then you're going to fall back, and we wind up being miserable in a profession that we got to spend 25, 30 years in. To me, it's wasted energy. We could try to find something positive. And like Russ said, keep on looking for the hope, keep on looking for that. This is going to turn around. And even if it doesn't, even if it doesn't, at least not during our time, we can't say it was us. We tried our best. We did what we could. I mean, think about it. Me and Russ have been doing this show for years. Now, granted, we could go with the negative and just, kind of just spill out negative bullshit all day. But what have we accomplished? I think the reason why channels like us exist, and maybe even a social media outlet, Keepers of Chaos, is because this is the time for it to exist. Because when everybody's so quick to go to the negative, we're going to try to get something positive going and still try to bring people in. Because if it wasn't for the challenge, there'd be no reason for us to exist. What's your thoughts on that, Russ?
Well, yeah, that's one thing that you'll see when you come on here. And one thing that you'll see if you come over and visit me over on Keepers of Chaos is that, we're not sitting there saying, correction sucks, man. I hate my job. Do your 8, hit the gate. We're proponents, we're advocates for, being in there and being professional, staying professional, building your professional acumen, building on every single thing you do, getting those skill sets and stuff to make, society more safe, to make your own department more safe, to make your own little unit more safe. So these are the things that, like he says, that, we've chosen to focus on. This is not something where, it would be easy to go out there and, be these negative Nancys, or all of these ones, where we're pointing all kinds of fingers and coming up with conspiracy theories and just, constantly bombarding the front line with all of the bad news. It's not all bad. It's not all bad all the time. And, it's really about a mindset. We have to lift people up and move them into those positions. A lot of people that are below you or at your level right now are going to move beyond, and sometimes far beyond where you are. I started out with a guy who's like 7, 8 years, into my career. And, he came in and he was a fresh new little recruit and all this stuff. And then boom, the next thing I knew, he was a sergeant and then a lieutenant and then a captain and then warden of Soledad State Prison. So, you just never know who's going to, just grab it and go. And those are the people we need to focus on. Those people that are going to, promote up and be those as a voice for change.
Yeah, guys, I think the big part of it, like what Russ said, is that you can choose to have a different outlook. Guys, I'm not telling you to be positive. I'm not telling you to, And when I mean be positive, I'm not telling you to be positive to the point where you're shifting reality and changing the narrative. What I'm telling you is to kind of have a sense of optimism and be hopeful that, that we are going to eventually be in line, and that eventually that the things that we're doing will be seen. I mean, ain't that the struggle? I mean, that's been the struggle for me since 2015, or even before that, 14, 13, whatever it was, is to get some level of recognition. Now, we can continue to say, well, that's never going to happen, and therefore just give up, or we know that it can happen, and that's what motivates the fight. That's what literally motivates the fight, is the fact that someone has to have some level of hope, or there's no reason for fighting. So, like, I mean, imagine if me and Russ were just disgruntled all the time and just kind of found the negative in everything, then what's the sense of having a show? To vent? We have to kind of motivate people. Motivation's unique because motivation is trying to get people to do something that they wouldn't normally do. That's what motivation is. And then eventually, if it's done correctly, maybe people will find it and then be inspired inwards. The inspiration is always the strongest. But right now, because it's hard to inspire people because of the shit that's happening in the profession, we're trying to motivate people by, I know, I get it. I know the profession's tough right now, but have you seen this? Have you tried this? Have you tried looking at it this way? And by the way, guys, if you're looking at it to be recognized, we're never going to win. It's just about being appreciated, which is what we're trying to do every day. That's why it's always thank you what you guys do, trying to show you that you are appreciated. Even if it's only coming from us, the point is it should be the quality, not the quantity of being appreciated. I'm thankful that people that I'm next to appreciate what I've done because they're the ones that are most affected by the work that I commit myself to. But as I said, if you feel that people don't have the qualities at this point, then your job is to try to cultivate them, to try to help them grow. But you yourself have to be moving forward. So in the end, when you're partnered next to somebody, I mean, we did something recently called the timely versus the timeless. It's a paradox of leadership. You need both. You need someone like the new people right now. I mean, there's a lot of things that they could provide to this profession. But then you're going to connect them with someone who has good core values, a history of what this profession's about. And maybe the practices have changed, but what we do and the reasons we do it shouldn't. Maybe the how we do, but why we do the things is still protecting the public and making sure that the inmates that come in are better off when they leave. So having said that, the core, the timeless part of it all, if you could connect it with someone at the very beginning of their career that's bringing in these new things, guys, look at the magic. Then if these people start to move up, they move up because, yes, there's a good chance that they're innovative, right? But they're connected to some good core values that stays with them, which means that they're kind of moving forward, but they're not forgetting the past. I think that's a good definition of always remembering your roots. It's a balance of trying to be innovative and think of things that are new, but still connecting it to the core principles that we believe in. For me, service to the public, rehabilitating the inmates, do what we can, safety and security. I mean, all these things have core values that should not get lost when you have people that are coming in that are trying to take it to the next level. But we have to be at that table mentioning what those core values are. Like, so anytime that we feel that the culture is going to start to shift and we feel that here we go off in this direction, well, we need to be at the table and not be an obstacle. All we have to do is remind the people of what those core values are and try to create an effort in where they're listening. Because again, right now, guys, we're losing our perspective because we feel that our perspective doesn't have any value. Well, it does if you create that perspective with forward momentum, not that perspective where it's just an excuse to stay back. Because at that point, you're right. If your perspective is literally not about moving forward, but staying back in this location, then you're right. It's tough for us to see value in that. But there's a way. The genius of it all is if you can create a perspective that has the core values that we need to move forward with and move forward with that perspective in mind. What's your thoughts on that, Russ? Because I saw you raise your hand.
Oh, no, I think I should scratch it, but I've always got a perspective of some kind. One of the things, we tend to be resistant towards what we see the administrators, the managers, the politicians doing, because a lot of times they're completely clueless. They really don't understand, the safety and security aspect. And it's very easy for us to see and not be able to explain to them, why we do the things we do and why we look less concerned with the whole rehabilitation aspect. There are traps that are inherent in that we understand that they do not. But at the same time, there's an element of this where we really have to try and be more participatory in trying to bring those things to fruition without getting our own selves lost in the hubris and the manipulation and things like that, which is very easy to do. I've seen things from, both perspectives, from being, down there in the trenches, fighting for knives and stuff, to all the way where I am now, where it's a matter of, reentry, rehabilitation, and trying to turn people's lives around. A lot of people get caught up so much in that turning people's lives around that they just forget about consequence. They forget about punishment, because punishment is part of what corrections does need to do in order to bring the correctness about, in order to bring rehabilitation about. We can't do it without those things. And some people see being soft as the way to maintain that hubris that they get, because they don't understand that not rehabilitation, that respect word. They think that respect is actually worth something. So we need to be there at the table. We need to actually be, advocating for the rehabilitation part, but we need at the same time to be raising our hands. Hey, look at what you guys are doing here. This is not right. This is going to cause inmates to get assaulted, to be able to, bring drugs in, whatever it is. So it's a hard balance, especially if you haven't been in the profession very long. You really need to look at some of these saltier older guys that really understand what it is that's going on inside those walls.
Now, remember too, exactly what Russ said, the dialogue has to be an effort to move forward, though. That's when you become a piece of the puzzle. But if you're there at the table creating more obstacles, as opposed to putting solutions up, then it becomes like, this isn't going to work because we're still moving forward. So the last thing we want is for someone, that's not moving with us. It lessens our momentum. We already know where corrections is going to head. There's really very limited argument that we're going to have that's going to prevent, that from happening. So with that said, you got to be able to be at that table and become a solution, which means, we know these problems exist, but here's what we can do, as opposed to we know these problems exist, therefore we can't move forward. That's not an option right now. It's not. The funny thing is that we kind of know the destination to some extent, the next mile marker that we have to head to, but we can make the course how we need it to be if we're all involved in the same page. All because you have to get to the next milestone doesn't mean you have to take this definitive course, but it's still going to move forward. So if you guys are involved in helping us create the safest course and still in that effort to move forward, you're a part of the table, you're a part of the discussion. But if you're looking to kind of find the brakes and this engine is moving forward regardless, it's not going to work. At that point, you yourself become the obstacle. So the next question is, do you feel that there's a better way to prepare new staff for mental health issues that management could give, even up here in Canada? I could start first with this one, Russ. So I do believe there should be some type of mandatory evaluations every 2 years. Again, it's tough because you can't expect staff to do it on their own. It's hard for people that work in corrections to admit any level of vulnerability. But I do think that it's an investment where if you make mandatory mental health checks, but it's got to still be a system that you can trust. Even though that's the hard part right now, because there's so much divide between, any level of management and front line. Even if management does put something in good intent, the motives get questioned to the point where people don't believe it, because it's not even about what's being put forward. It's about who's putting it forward. So maybe there should be, if there's unions or something involved or whatnot, but I think in order for us to do anything that's going to lead frontline to express some level of vulnerability, they're going to have to know that they're in an environment that they can trust for this to be truly effective, which means that you have to have the right people of influence to implement anything, especially related to any type of extra mental health evaluation, because people are, it's funny because when people have these mental health vulnerabilities, they're more concerned that they admit it. There's going to be some punitive thing attached to it. They're going to get in trouble, lose their weapon, whatever the story is. And in the end, the funny thing is, what people may not realize is that we want people at the best of their game. So we should be motivated to have these mental health evaluations every few years, because it's going to make sure that our staff has the right mindset to continue to do the job, move forward, and actually it should put a little bit of trust in between the people that are also working together, to some extent. But if we don't have a trusting environment, and again, we're looking to implement something that relates to mental health, if we have the wrong people behind it, the motives are going to be questioned, and it's going to be very hard for it to be successful until we ourselves build an environment that allows for something like this to happen. This is something that's a great question, Ron. It's something that really is needed, but to implement it, to get someone to express their vulnerabilities, it has to be in an environment that they can trust 100%, or else they're not going to take full advantage of it. They're just going to go through it because they have to, and not because they see it as a benefit for themselves. What's your thoughts on that, Russ?
Yeah, I think that the main thing that we have to address is the resource. We have to bring those things, out into the open, to give to the staff, to be able to, have them be able to access it and be able to feel that they can trust it. We can talk about, doing the, mandatory kind of thing, but that tends to build resistance. Whether it's necessary or not, I think it's very difficult to say. But one thing that almost always leads to resistance and to not trusting it is when you make something mandatory. I think that maybe there's times where on an individual basis we do need to make things mandatory when we see an officer start to wander off in a direction that he or she shouldn't be going. Because of whatever's happening in his home life, whatever's happening in his work life, whatever's happening with regards to these post-traumatic incidents that they're involved in. We have this huge suicide rate, and we need to destigmatize that and try and bring people into the point where they really want to access resources. But we have to have those resources to access, and we have to, have those people know exactly what they need to do. I would like to see more of that being done, and then some evidence-based statistics with those things in action to try and find, something of a broader scale that we can all relate to and resort to. I think right now it's just so piecemeal that it's hard to say what would actually be effective.
Right. And guys, I see there's a great question here about how do you also, between state, county, and federal, which do you all think would be the best move career-wise? Which did you all turn into a career? So I think it really depends on where you live too, as well. Because I know like in states like by me, the pay for state is not that bad compared to the other states. I can't complain, but again, the cost of living is up. A lot of people do love working for the federal system. You barely ever get any complaints about that. But county is tough. Again, hard to have some consistency in county. Different sheriffs all over the place. I mean, however serious they want to take their position really relates to how our job is affected. And then you also have, the state itself that, again, it's tough because we're the front line. We remain consistent, but the people above us aren't. The people above us, like the governors, the politicians that run all these things, they're not consistent. So one of the things that I would say are always the biggest concerns are, working for inconsistent leadership, leadership that really changes with the wind. So, it depends on what you're looking for, because in some states, counties make more than the state. Some states, federal is the best pick. But for me, I wouldn't go federal if I'm looking for greater pay, especially where I work. The pay for a state corrections officer is a little bit more than the federal system. So it really does depend on what it is that you're looking for. I mean, when it comes to stability, I would always lean on state and federal system. But then that's not guaranteed either. It depends on what state you're in. So I think the best question I would ask for that, Jed, would be if this is the area you're in, like this is the state where I live, or this is the county where I live, would you prefer county, state, or federal? Because I think there's a lot of variables that come in play that affects the specifics of where you're at and what it is that you're looking for. Again, my choice was state. Most people would maybe disagree on that generally, but specifically for me, it worked. For me, state worked for me, gave me more opportunities. Again, I could say this actually. I think the state has more positions to go for because there's a lot more facilities. Again, quantity of positions technically. So when you go to move up, good chance to make rank. Where I know in county it may be tough because in county there may not be that many positions. FBOP, sure, there could be, but you may have to move around a good distance, because the jails are spread far apart. But what's your thoughts, Russ?
Yeah, it kind of depends. It kind of depends somewhat, maybe, on your own personal characteristics. If you decide that, the community is really, something important to you and you want to be more involved in that, I would say, a local jail is probably more of your fit. If you want to really branch out, though, and try and, maximize the different places you can go, the different types of jobs that you can be involved in, state is probably your best solution, because most states, have, X number of prisons. And so they have more openings. There's more of a chance to shuffle through. There's probably a better chance of learning. Some of the things with regards to federal right now, a little bit more up in the air. And it seems to me, and this is just my impression, that federal just really gets impacted more often, by political choices. And I'm not talking about administrations here. I'm talking about, they went so far as they actually had to get it passed by Congress for them to get their pepper spray. So, I mean, that's just, huge barriers towards, making any specific changes. So I think it's much harder as an individual to try and make a change there, except at just the sheer leadership level. So, but that doesn't mean that doesn't need to be done. That's just what I'm seeing here, and potential pitfalls. So, it just all depends on your mindset. Some of it obviously could depend on, how much money you want to make. There's, in a lot of states, the counties make more than the states, but there's some states where that's completely the opposite and turned around. You need to do your homework, like I say, unless you're that really community-oriented guy and you want to try and do something positive for the community you're living in right now. Doesn't mean you can't change communities and still have that community value. But that's just some of the values that I see in corrections right now, and some of the differences between those potential departments, if you will.
Yeah, I think for me, thanks guys. I'm looking for more of a community feel, setting down in one location and such. Yeah, you know what? It kind of goes down to, Jed, where you really are located and seeing what the best opportunities are from that specific location. Because in some cases, county may not be the best option. In some cases, it could be. I know by me, county officers, I mean, if you're looking at money as an incentive, they make a good amount of money. But it also depends on what your incentive is. I mean, for some people, the chance to move up may be worth some sacrifice in pay. I know this may sound crazy, but I know for me, that was a choice. When I was getting ready to move up, I had an option to make bigger pay at a county jail, but I would lose the rank that I've earned, and I kind of wanted the rank. So I do believe the one thing that's consistent, which is not the leadership, that's always going to change. But the one thing that's consistent, I believe, is that the state may be able to offer more opportunities because of just the greater positions, like I mentioned, where even if you do get it in the feds, it could be spread out. But don't forget the federal system, you could branch into a lot of different departments too, because a lot of them are, they're all trained, I think, except for chaplaincy, they're all trained as officers. So, I mean, you can go from an officer to a counselor or whatever it is. So, I mean, it just really depends on what it is that you're looking for, both, stability, pay, incentives. I get it, but also as a career. What is it that do I expect from the career? Now, again, it really does depend on the location. Now, Jed says incentive would be long-term benefits, retirement, and stuff. I'm former active duty Army and missed the stability. I guess in that case, I mean, I don't know too much about what your state offers or what the county, but the feds are consistent with that, though. If there's a federal facility by you, the incentives are usually consistent. But having said that, I mean, you got to see what opportunities are really by you to make that decision, because it's going to be different for everyone else. My path would be a lot different than, let's say, Russ's path, but my reasons would also be different as to why I chose that. So for people to say generally a county's better than state, then we could easily come back and show counties that aren't. Just like I can come back and say, yeah, always get a state job, and then we can show you how states that aren't.
Yeah, you never know too where you're going to end up. Like right now at this phase in my life, the whole community thing's really important to me. And even though I'm not, I don't have that badge on anymore, I work as a vendor at the local county jail here, and it's really important to me because this is actually where I grew up. So I'm spending my sunset years here, in a county facility, which is far different from, working for the state of California, which is, just a huge system. So, there are a lot of different things that you can experience over the course of your career if you want to do that. I went all the way from state to working for a local county detention facility that was for juveniles, to working in reentry and rehabilitation now at the local jail, as a vendor that, supplies those types of services to them. So, I mean, it's an incredible area to get into because there is so much variation that you're able to avail yourself of.
Yeah, and even when it comes to operations, guys, depending on the location, you could have a federal system that may have some obviously consistent core principles, but the daily operations day to day could be shifting. So what I would do, Jed, to kind of wrap this one up is get your questions in play, maybe join a social media group that's related to corrections, and see if you can find people that work specifically for the county, specifically for the state, specifically for the federal prison that's in your area, and then ask them the questions and really do a pro and con of what works best for you. Because everybody has different reasons for the journeys they choose. And, based on the specifics, it really is what's best for you with all the different variables in play. So, I mean, that would be a thing I would do if I were you, just to try to get something more specific than we can provide here, which would be general. 3 years corrections in Texas to 3 years detention in Missouri, and I'm struggling, feeling burned out, and becoming complacent and looking to be a sergeant. Is there something more I can do to help me break out of complacency, but help retain staff? We are losing bad. So go ahead, Russ. I know it's complacency, so you get it first. Just like if it was a manipulation question, guys, because I do have a book on the market, I would go with manipulation first, but I got to have Russ. This is Russ's area, complacency.
Okay, so the type of complacency that you're talking about there is the complacency of routine, right? For whatever reason, you're in there, you're doing the same thing in and out every day, and that is starting to, bore your subconscious a little bit, and you don't have challenges which you consider, worthy of your attention. So what you have to do to break out of something like that is usually, a shakeup. It can be something, probably, a job switch to some other unit, something that will, give you something different to rise to for the challenges that you want to seek out. It might be you need to, step down in security and maybe go run the dorms for a while. Maybe it's that you need to take a step up and be in a lockup unit for a while. Maybe what you need is a little a side gig doing something like honor guard or emergency response team, something that forces you out of that complacency of routine and puts you in a position where you have to be on your guard. And so, I mean, that's pretty typical. We see that a lot in corrections because of being in the same place day after day. So some people are better at adjusting to that, and they can, do their whole career in just a few different units. Some people just, need to change that. Now you're talking about moving up to sergeant. That's probably a great move. That's something that's going to shake you up and force you to deal with things that you're not used to dealing with. And so you'll be able to rise to those challenges, and you may slough that off, but you want to try and do that before you put those sergeant stripes on, because you don't want to just easily slide back into that same routine. So just, be aware of those things and start thinking about the things that you really want to do as a sergeant too. That'll drive you. Your dreams will help take you to places that you otherwise would go. Think about what you want to do for those staff members, how you want to have their back, how you want to teach them to do different things, how you want to install different skill sets in them and bring them together as a team, and decide right now on the kind of leader you want to be. Otherwise, you'll just take that for granted too. So anyway, I hope that helps. And like I say, that's just pretty typical. We all experience that at corrections, usually multiple times in our careers. And it's just a matter of, shaking it off and doing those things that we need to do to present us with those new challenges.
Yeah, and that's the key. I mean, breaking yourself from the routine. I mean, to be honest with you, sometimes that requires you going back and asking yourself some very important questions. Like, obviously, for the fact that that you are becoming complacent, that says a lot about you. That really does, because obviously there's a change or a shift in how you feel, and maybe that's carried out in your behaviors. Maybe there's certain things that you're doing now that wouldn't be the norm, and now you're reminding yourself not to do it. Like something as simple as putting your hands in your pocket. Again, just generalized, but that's usually the generalized thing we use when it comes to complacency, putting your hands in your pocket while talking to a murderer. It's a great way to advertise the dangers of complacency. But it's great because you feel something shifted, and now it's affecting your behavior, which makes you go back and ask yourself, well, why am I doing this? Like, why am I doing it this way? When you become a supervisor, obviously you're putting yourself in a position where you have to be on point 100%. So it's very good that you investigate the concerns now, because you don't want to bring those concerns as a supervisor, because again, now as a supervisor at the next level up, you set the tone. So the biggest concern here is people will model your behavior. So, as you start to move up, it's good that you address whatever these little things are, idiosyncrasies, if you will, that could affect you in really becoming the best supervisor, the best leader. But again, the feeling, the burning out, whatever it is, like Russ said, it happens to all of us because we're doing the same thing. And most of the time, guys, everything we do every day pretty much has a minimal outcome in regards to what we could see on the surface. But if you look a little deeper, everything we do has a very important outcome. It's just that it may not always be produced. Like a search that doesn't produce nothing is still not a minimal outcome. It's actually a great outcome, because we're on point, we're doing our job, and we have to also stay motivated. So having said that, it's hard, but I do believe if you connect yourself to what brought you in, find yourself some purpose, some why. We kind of always go back to that. Now that you're starting to move up, it's great to kind of look inwards and see what it is in yourself that could be better. I think that's going to pull you out of being complacent. So right now, instead of looking to stay in one place, look to grow, like Russ said. Russ pretty much said it. And you obviously have the insight to do this. Look to grow right now, which means that, it's not even just about getting information for the sake of information. It's applying the information, getting actionable with whatever it is that's coming your way. That's a great way to alleviate complacency, is finding things that you can be actionable with that has purpose. So again, the best thing I can tell you right now is continue to grow. It's good that you're looking inwards, continue to grow. And I know you're working in routine, but try to be a little different with that routine. And if you are able to switch locations, that's great. But if you can't, then you could find something maybe within the parameters, just to kind of, be mindful when you're falling back. I mean, that's the key. I think your question right now shows great potential. Most people won't even ask that question. This one, Went to my new facility out of the academy. My supervisors were welcoming. Everybody else hated their job and gave me the stank face for wanting to work and asking questions. That's something that we mentioned before. We kind of touched into the fact that right now the people that are coming in have to be welcomed. If they're not welcome, we're pushing out possible high achievers. So another thing, guys, speaking of that, is that we also have to be mindful of how we're seeing the people that are coming in. If we have a biased mind and that everybody that a biased perspective and everybody that's coming in is negative and this is how we're viewing it because we ourselves are disgruntled, then we're putting labels on these people, limiting their potential because we ourselves have lost our potential. We have to be careful that we don't project this. So again, if you have someone that's coming in and they look to be high achievers and go-getters, but you're connecting with someone who just they lost their momentum, then that go-getter is either going to become like them or leave this profession. So again, for someone that's, for people that find you annoying because you're asking questions, guys, that answering a question is a great way to share your experience, connecting with someone, sharing your story. So you got someone coming in, this is something that you should be doing to cultivate. I mean, I think also we forget how it was for us to be rookies. I know someone said, yeah, well, I remember having to do all this shit when I was a rookie, so they should do the same thing. It's like, yeah, but do you also remember how you felt when that was happening? Because it wasn't good. So therefore, with people that are coming in right now that are expecting more from this profession, believe it or not, because they are, and they get connected with someone who's just the opposite of that, you can't expect them to stay. And the funny thing is we never look at ourselves and say we're the fault for pushing them out. No, we are to some extent because they came in with this high expectation of what this profession was about, but we put them next to someone who has the lowest expectation of what this profession's about. What's your thoughts on that, Russ?
Yeah, that comes back, I know that I know that I've shared this before, but my very first real shift after that first week of orientation, coming in and I'm like 40 minutes to an hour early, and the guy just looks at me and throws the keys, the baton, the radio and stuff down on the desk, and then I'm expecting hey, I'm going to get a briefing and he's going to run everything down to me. Because this was death row, all right? This was, fifth tier at San Quentin. And you know what? Not a word to me, not a hi, how's your day, nothing. So conversely, what I should obviously do then is as soon as I become the salty old guy and somebody new shows up is do the exact same thing, right? No, that's the reason that I'm doing this right now is because I understand where the shortcomings or falling along the way and never wanting anyone to be put in that position. First of all, it's dangerous. It's unnecessary. It breeds, a bunch of ill feelings and it does nothing but, erode safety and security. So that's not what we want to build on. We want to build on being welcoming. We want to pass on knowledge. One of the things that I did on my yard as a sergeant is welcome the cadets from the academy on there and start pairing them off with people and showing them how to do a pat down search and show them how to do an inventory on all your kitchen items and all those knives and sharp things that are in there. And so this is where you should start teaching from the very first moment that you have something to say, that you first learned a lesson and passing it on, not deciding that, well, these people have to go through the same exact bullshit that I went through. None of that's any good.
Yeah, you know what's funny? Let me get myself. Sorry about that. I lost the. You know what's funny? Facebook user asked a good question. To me, routine leads to complacency. You do the same things every day, often the same way. Start to miss things. Do you have tips to avoid that? Now, this is kind of what Russ touched on prior. I'll go first on this one too, and then Russ, I'm sure, is going to want to comment. You know what? Predictability does lead to expectations. So there are certain things that are going to be predictable about what we do because they relate to what's expected of us. But there are certain ways that we can maneuver within the routine. I mean, technically, the funny thing is we know what to do, but how we do it can be a little bit unique. Don't forget, in the routine of what we do, based on policy and procedures, inmates can also find ways to manipulate. So we may know what has to be done, but there is some level of empowering, if you will, when it comes to how the job gets done, as long as it's not in any violation of policies and procedures. But having said that, corrections is mostly defined by routine. So what makes it hard is for us to maintain a growth mindset. And guys, check out the verbiage I use because it does matter. The growth mindset is like the routine of it all could be what they call a finite game. It's just what we do. But if you see everything you do for the longer purpose and not just for that moment, then it kind of adds value, as opposed to, okay, I'm just going to do my 3 counts for the day and I'm done with my job. It's like, yeah, but there's a reason why you're doing those counts. Again, for the longer run, it's, again, maintaining safety and security, making sure that, we're doing what we're accountable for. And that's just one part of the bigger picture. So again, it's knowing that things have purpose in the longer run of things kind of keeps you motivated to just, keep doing it. But if you tend to lose out on the purpose, if you tend to break away from the strong reasons behind what you do, then it just becomes a normalized routine. So part of it is also how you see it yourself. Like if I see this as me just doing a count or just doing another search where I'm going to find nothing, guys, the motivation that you have put in place to get you to do the things that are routine can make you see it as beyond a routine, see it with value. Guys, I mean, think about this. Let's talk about charities for a second. The people, let's say, that feed the poor. If they just go in every day and say, there's another day feeding the poor, and there's no motivation behind it, the people that they have to lead, the people that they have to supervise, they're all going to lose interest. There's no personal attachment to it. So guys, the stuff that you're doing at this job, you have to be aligned to some higher purpose and let that define you, especially when you're coming up 9 times out of 10 with nothing during a search. Does that mean that the next search you're going to go at it less than 100%? No, you're going to go at it 110, 120% each and every time. It's not about the outcome. It's about the journey along the way. So if you consider your routine mile markers in a bigger journey, and don't just be so focused on the outcome, because technically your job is never really done. It keeps moving forward. Everything we're doing is in continuation into the next shift, to the next shift. We're all helping each other. But now imagine this, though. Consider it like a relay race, and I'm passing a baton across. I want to make sure that I give the baton to the next person when I'm in the best of my position. I don't want to dog it. I don't want to be the last person giving them the baton. So again, that's where the weakest link comes in. So again, guys, if you consider this like a journey, you have to stay motivated. You have to kind of find purpose. So when you pass that baton off to the next shift or the person that's relieving you, it has the energy and momentum it needs to kind of carry things forward. So for me, you see it as a routine if you have no purpose and value behind the work that you're doing in the long run. That's for me. That's what keeps me going. So I may get overwhelmed at work, and all of a sudden I'm like, man, this is just ridiculous. The same tedious work for, nothing. But having said that, there is a bigger picture. You may not see it at that moment, but it's going to occur, and then you're a part of that. But again, you got to kind of enter each milestone with 110% energy, regardless of what the outcome is. It's not a finite game. It's an infinite game. It keeps moving forward. What's your thoughts on that, Russ?
Yeah, the way I always look at it is this is a thinking man's game. And a lot of the ways that they want things run in the units and stuff is with that rote mentality. I'm going to go in and I'm going to do my 3 searches. I'm going to go in and I'm going to do my 2 counts. I'm going to go in and I'm going to make sure the mail gets delivered. And people focus on that and they lose track of the other functions that they serve when they put that badge on, right? And so one of the things that I always did is I just always found ways to think outside the box, to make plays that weren't, written into that, doing my, rote 3 searches for that day. I try and make sure that I'm always thinking about how is an inmate getting over on me by me doing what I'm doing, whether that's something that's outside the box or whether that's part of my routine, and not falling into that complacency. It's that active mindset that gets you there. A lot of people, what happens is they fall into it and they learn it. It's that assembly line going by. Put on your 3 screws, check that they're tight, let it go by. And that's all they ever do. There's no thinking to that. It's just the same function over and over again. It can be that way in corrections, or you can purposefully, intentionally try and do something different with your mind and make those impacts. I know just as one thing that I did one time is we had a new officer on the block that inmates didn't know what he was about or anything. And so they kind of got themselves into that, mindset of complacency because he looked young, he looked stupid. And so I told him, I said, hey, look, dorm 27 up there, we're gonna go search that. But what I want you to do is I want you to go up there and let it slip that we're gonna search it after lunch. And so, he understood. He knew what his assignment was. And so he went up there and he let it slip that we were going to go up there and search after lunch. And so I let about 15 minutes go by and we went and rushed it, right? And we came up with all kinds of contraband that come up out of all those hidey holes that we didn't have time to search for or that were too good for us to detect. And so really, it's about being the weapon for corrections, sharpening that mind, taking things to the next level, not these perfunctory actions that you do day in and day out. Yeah, there's some of those that we got to do that we can't get away with, but overall, active mind will keep you from that complacency.
Yeah, and guys, that is a good question, though. I mean, it's great to kind of, make sure that we're aware we're falling into something like that. So it's good to kind of ask those questions that are very inwards, because again, sometimes we don't realize we're complacent until it's too late. So it's great to see that we have the mindset so far that says, hey, why don't I feel more about what I'm doing, or why am I doing these behaviors? Shouldn't I be more involved? So again, I think it really does come down to some level of growth. Even though you're within a routine, you don't want to be like Russ said, the assembly line. That we deal with human behavior. There's no reason to be the assembly line. But it's good to know that at least we're looking in that direction. Is it okay for me to get snappy back at my coworkers just to let them know not to keep getting snappy with me? So this is the same person that mentioned kind of being pushed off by the senior staff. So how would you address that, Russ, especially if you're newer to the profession?
To me, that's just one of those things that, every situation is a little bit different. That snappiness that you talk about, I refer to it as setting boundaries. There's things that you can do around me and there's things that you can't do around me. And there's ways that you can treat me and there's ways that you can't treat me. And for me, that always included, not just my, coworkers, not just my peers, but that included everyone above me as well. I think that there's a way that you treat people and a way that you don't treat people. I would be fine with that. You might trigger some tears from some people that are easily offended, but I think that that's kind of one of those paths that you got to trailblaze for yourself. Just think about it before you do it, and make sure that your end game is to get a result, not just a reaction.
Yeah, Russ, you said it, to stay within the context of the argument. I actually went through this where I was new, where I expect to get a little hazing, especially when I started. But one point is, okay, there's jokes, but the second point is some of the jokes get a little too personal, or they affect your ability to do the job because they're not really jokes. They're more condescending in nature. And I remember this one person who I really had no interaction with me. He just didn't like me because I was a rookie, which is so stupid because we all were rookies. I don't get it. You should be, rookies are going to come in. You got to be there to guide them. You can't be against rookies. They're going to ask questions. I mean, the funny thing is when someone goes like this, these rookies are asking too many questions. Well, you better answer them, because if you don't answer them, the inmates will. So you want them to ask questions, because another thing is the same people that say the inmates are asking too many questions are also saying, the same person that's saying that the rookies are asking too many questions are usually the same person that's saying, well, these rookies know too much. I mean, where's the middle? I mean, you can't, the same person, I'm telling you guys, oh, these rookies come in thinking like they know everything. And the same person saying that is the person saying these rookies are just such a bottom. They ask so many questions. Guys, either way, just say, at that point, it's you. If there's extremes and you're on both sides of the extreme, it's you. The rookies should come in asking questions, and then we should also be learning from them as well, because there's stuff we can learn both ways. Again, it's the paradox of great leaders. Learn being a teacher and being a learner. Doing both. And mentoring is a two-way relationship. Just as much as you give, you do receive. And again, it's more of understanding why things are done. But if I had someone that kind of pushed me off because I was a rookie, and I felt that it was more personal, I would address it. I would. I'd be professional with it. Sometimes it's a matter of letting them know you're uncomfortable with what they're saying, and let them know that you're not going to be walked on. But we're not. I like what Russ said, and it's very important here. You're not snapping back just to snap back. It's just more of setting the expectation of how this relationship is going to work between both of you. If this person's rude and they're being disrespectful, I think at some point you do have to say something. But what it's going to be, it's an expectation of how we're going to work with each other. I don't give a shit if I'm new or not. You're going to respect me, and you're going to respect what it is that I bring to the table. And if you choose not to do that, then we'll see what's going to happen next. Whether I'm going to have to write it up, go to the supervisor. It's not a threat here. It's just we need to work together. So I think the effort in that dialogue is to set that level of expectation. And it is a fine line, Luis. I agree. But I think it really comes from how the one person reacts and how the other person receives it. So the other person has to know that once I say my thought, I'm done. That's it. I said my thought. I don't care how they perceive it at this point. I got my thought across. Because again, you can wind up arguing with someone and there's really no win here. This person's going to be stuck in their ways, and then we wind up going back and forth, and the person here is trying to elevate the dialogue, but just can't because this person right here is stuck in their ways. So having said that, sometimes you have to be confident enough in yourself to know I got my thought out there and just let it play out. Regardless, I'm not doing this to, have a back and forth and just get the win-loss. I'm not doing that. It really does come with the expectation of what you expect at the end of that exchange. Here's what I expected. When I had that person have an issue with me, what I expect is you're going to understand that I want to be respected. That's my end game. That's it. So the best thing I can do is present a perspective that leads toward that. Now, however they receive it, that's on them. That's on them. But all I know is this is what I expect. And at that point, we're not going to have back and forth, because the sad thing is that you continue to have the back and forth and you're having an argument with someone that's not lifting the argument up but bringing it down. You're going to lose respect because you went in at this highest level that you could to kind of put an expectation down. This is what I want. Regardless of how you perceive it, this is how I want. This is what I want. I want to be respected, whatever it is. And all of a sudden, this person just comes in and just starts attacking you personally. Then you start attacking them personally. Now, there's going to be no respect. You're outside of the context of the argument. Now, it's not even about the respect. It's not even about the expectation of what this relationship's about. It's more of, I'm going to win this argument and you're going to lose. And at the end of the day, guys, if we go into a mindset like that, we're closed off. And for the person on the other end that's doing it, guys, you're the senior staff member. I mean, there's no other way to put it. You're the person that's an example of what we're about, of what this profession's about. If you attack a rookie on day one, you're giving them this foundation that this profession's shit. Because I'm going to tell you something. The good that comes from this profession is the connection that we have to each other. What we promote on this venue all the time is the connection we have with the people that are in this profession. So now when you're new, and my first interaction, if I'm new, is with someone that's negative, what the hell do I want to be in a profession like corrections for? Why? If a lot of people are coming into this profession because there's a brotherhood or a sisterhood that you can't find anywhere else. One person could affect that at that initial day, and that becomes the foundation that rookie has to build from. That is a shitty foundation to have. Because you know what's funny? And I think Russ would agree. You know what's funny, guys? We can deal with a lot of negativity as we grow in this profession because we have enough positive experiences to look back on that will outweigh the negative. But if you're entering this profession, the first thing you have is that negative impression of this profession because of the asshole that's being stupid. That's going to be very hard for me to overcome because I have no positive experiences to contrast or compare. What's your thoughts on that, Russ?
Yeah, one thing that you never want to lose as, that senior staff member is the fact that, a lot of these rookies coming in, that first day and stuff, they're looking up to you to guide you. Why would you want to jeopardize that? Keep them looking up to you for an entire career, until they're out there on their own and they're in that same position as you and those other people are looking up to them. Why would you want to squander that? Right? When you have people that are looking up to you, you're able to affect the arc of the trajectory of their entire career and put them on the right path. But the first day, you just want to jeopardize that and get rid of it. That is a magnificent tool to be able to use. So you're foolish and probably a fool if you jeopardize that.
And the sad thing is, guys, is the people that need to watch this right now won't. So you got to realize something too, guys. Everything we've ever done is based on our own evaluated experience, our ability and want to grow, our need to grow. That's who we are. The people that watch it have that same desire, that same want. They want to grow. They want to do more than their current situation, in this career. And it's great because we all connect on those. So I don't expect to have millions of people watching it. I don't. Because I think what we offer is something that goes beyond the job. So really the people that watch this are the ones that want to go above and beyond. I don't expect everybody because this channel isn't about the average person. This is about the person that wants to be more than average. These are the people that connect to these channels because they want to do more. And that's okay. That's what we're here for. We're here to support that growth. And hopefully, we're able to push you past your boundaries. And those are the ones that are succeed. And those are the ones that come back and say, hey, Gangi, or hey, Russ, or hey, the community, thank you for what you did. Because of you, I just became a supervisor. Now, Todd just became a lieutenant. He was in briefly, stopped and said hi, but he watches all our videos, even if it's a longer one. It's like, damn, it's a longer one, but he's going to watch it minute for minute. And he's still high up there. He doesn't think like, well, the destination means I know everything. No, this guy continues to grow, continues to add value. And in the end, it kind of adds to what we provide. But for the people that should be watching that, the people that are this is where the conflict is in the world, man. The people that should be watching it, they don't. Even if they get directed to it, it doesn't have the value. The sad thing is, guys, the people that are watching it right now, the people that are doing it right now, we're not at work. We're doing this on our own time. So this is where the want and desire comes in. So even if an agency forces somebody to do something that they wouldn't do on their own, they have to find some way to maintain that. And most of the time it's hard because these people will be like, yeah, I only had to watch it because someone told me to watch it. So their whole mindset is, I don't need it. So I'm not going to sit here and watch what I don't need. Or if I have to watch it, I'm just going to go through the motions. You guys, it's different because a lot of the people that are watching the videos, usually I would like to think it's based on the fact they're looking for something and the video gives them something that they're looking for. Now, the funny thing is that I've noticed this too, that a lot of people that are looking for the videos at the very beginning of their career, we get a spike, but then eventually it drops because they got to where they got to be. So I'm looking to get in corrections and, I need some advice, and you give them all this advice. And then, after a few weeks of them being on the job, they don't watch the videos no more. And they'll be like, well, I haven't had time and all this other stuff. Guys, there's always time. You drive to work, you can listen to it. You're in the shitter, you can listen to it. There's always time for growth. Even if it requires you getting up an extra hour early or going to bed an extra hour later. Trust me, because we could always say there's no time to move forward. And at the end, make that be our excuse when we're still stuck in the same place when we knew we wanted more. Making the effort, going above and beyond literally means is finding the time, not allowing the time to say there isn't enough time, because there's always time. I find a way to read one full book a week. I read one book a week. And people are like, well, how do you find the time to do it? Great question to ask. I just do. Let me tell you something. I spend most of my time waiting online at a Best Buy. So I got Kindle. Oh, man, I can read pages of a book while I'm waiting online. You know, I mean, just when the moments, instead of just, you know, the wait process, you occupy. Kindle's great. I mean, literally, guys, I finish one book a week. One book a week. But that's not because I sit down and wait for the perfect moment. I create the moments. You know, so again, you know, it's what you put into it. I find that emotional hard to push aside when I have to move people around. Isabella, can you explain that real quick? Because I think I walked into part of that. Is there a question there? I love Isabella. She's one of our regulars, by the way. And Joe says, is there respect for the older, wiser correctional officers by the younger members? Do they look to the senior members for an example of how to deal with the situation? Yeah, Russ, want to go first and I'll comment after you?
Yeah, you know, I just harken back to what I said immediately before. You know, when those new guys come in, they're looking up to people, right? Why would I want to squander that? I think that they do, especially when they see someone that's doing the job in the manner that they want to do it. I used to have, you know, we used to get guys from the, you know, sometimes we'd have, you know, 10 or 15 you know, new cadets show up, you know, all ready to start their first week. And I would always take time with them. I would always tell them, you know, this is what corrections is about. This is where we need to go. And then, you know, they'd come to me and they'd say, hey, how do you do that? How do you find all those weapons? How do you find all those phones and dope and all of these different things? And how do you deal with these inmates that just want to be turds and resistant and stuff because I'm new, I'm a fresh face, all of that. And that was my hook. That was my way to be able to, you know, show them, hey, look, I'm here for you, and approach me at any time. I think that a lot of those officers that are like that invest that initial time into those individuals tend to stay up on that pedestal. And those officers, they become the ones that want to emulate them, because they are the ones that have truly proven that they're a dedicated professional, not just someone there collecting a paycheck.
Yeah, and guys, can I tell you something? The respect for the senior staff really has to start when the rookies are entering in the first day, the academy, whatever it is. I mean, sometimes there's a separation there, because sometimes even people in the academy will talk about how the training is so much better it is today than it was yesterday, but they're neglecting the fact that training's great, gives you a good foundation, but you can't, you know, minimize experience. You know, I you know, again, 4 or 5 months in an academy versus 25 years of experience. You know, 25 years of experience is going to trump that any day of the week. But that doesn't mean one is really is more important than the other. You need that training in the academy, because the training in the academy helps the person get a better understanding of the experience that's going to be given to them along the way. So what I tend to do is first, but myself, is I push for that connection. But I also want to make sure that people value that. I mean, that's where those little stories come into play. You know, if I'm a senior officer and I get the chance to train someone who's newer, I want to connect with them. I want to share personal stories. I want to explain the why behind the things that we do. I want to make this personal. You know, I think there has to be passion in the educator just as much as there needs to be passion in the person receiving it. And the funny thing is, as an educator, as a teacher, you're also learning at the same time. So this person that's coming in that's new, they also have value. You know, they're not stuck to the same practices of the past that we are. They have an ability to see things differently. Again, we can grow and still stay connected to our core values, but sometimes we do need that new person's perspective, because we may not see it because we're stuck in the routine of everything every day. So it's great when someone asks us the right question, and if we have an open mind. I mean, it's funny because another paradox of leadership, it's stubbornness and having an open mind. You know, if I'm walking in, I'm stubborn with my core values, but then someone's coming in and giving me some advice on, you know, hey, maybe things could be easier this way. Why not listen to them? I'm not saying it's 100% going to happen, but you know what? They have a perspective that's new and unique, and that's how we evolve. But for me to close off because they don't have that much time in. So whatever you say doesn't have value. That's going to be the loss of the agency, because that person may see things a little bit differently and may help us innovate. So again, I think that to me, the new person partnered with the senior staff is the best thing you can ever do, but you have to connect people who have passion, because that to me is where you connect timely to the timeless. The timely of coming in and we're pushing forward, and these are things that we can do to progress, but how do we move forward with the core principles we have? So think about that, guys. If you're management or you're a training officer, connect the timely with the timeless, and that's founded with passion. What's your thoughts on that, Russ? That makes sense?
Oh yeah, I think we just have to keep drilling this into people. Whatever your station is in corrections right now, your choice is to either elevate that and show that you're able to deal with the new people coming in, you're able to pass something on, you're able to actually promote the profession, or you're just a placeholder, and the new guys coming in aren't gonna cotton to you, just being a dick to them. And it's just one of those things where truly seek out being that professional. The word profession, professional, professionalism, they all mean something. Seek to really put those there. And also, Anthony, I'm going to have to start wrapping it up here.
Yeah, me too. Hey guys, we're gonna try to do more of these. I think me and Russ will be able to knock out some of the questions from here. We could explore a little more in a video coming. One last question, if that's okay, Russ. Is that all right?
Yeah.
And then we'll wrap it up. Does the training in any correctional academy really share the true environment one is walking into? Senior officers are the protective factor of safety of coping when working in these environments.
That's just the difference between knowledge and the actual practical application of it. Can you truly, try and, do role playing and stuff like that? Does it have the flavor? Does it have the essence? Well, it has some of that, but until it's all put on the line for a real and factual and dangerous situation, a lot of that's lacking. You can talk about it till the end of time, but the actual experience of it is quite another thing. I watched this movie the other night called Finch with Tom Hanks in it, and there's this huge difference between explaining what it's like to stand on the Golden Gate Bridge and see all of the cables and the rivets and things like that. And it's another thing to just know about it and have read about it. So, I think that truly the academies do provide that sensitization toward what the environment is like, but they're never going to achieve what it really is. So there's a lot of good things to take away from that. But at some point, knowing how to swim and getting your feet wet, way different.
Yeah, I can't even say it better. The key here, guys, is that we work in a world with no limits to what the inmates can do to us. And even in the training academy, we know that the people training us are limited in what they can do. I'm talking about the dangers. So again, they could try their best, but in the end, once you walk in, it's how you feel about where you're at, in that moment. And that's something that, to be honest with you, the academy becomes the safe part of it all. Listen, the academy pushes you, but you still feel safe. When you're in the prison, you lose that feeling. So you kind of have the balance of the people that are around you to help supplement that. But there was never a moment when I was in the academy that I didn't feel safe. If I gave my 100, I could get through, but I always felt safe. The environment would test you, but I always felt safe. In working in a prison or a jail, sometimes you have to remind yourself of that you are safe as long as you have the people that are next to you that have your back, right rules in place. But there are going to be times in this profession where you're not going to feel safe. It's just maybe not enough people there, or just a new rule that's coming out, or a new policy. So a lot of it depends on how you perceive, what you feel. Hey, Russ, anything you'd like to say in closing?
I just want to say thanks to everyone that showed up, everyone that asked questions or was willing to listen to what we were willing to put out there. And I just hope everyone is going to, stay safe and stay aware. Don't let complacency bite you in the ass.
Yes, guys, this was a great dialogue. Thank you guys for being part of it. We'll try to do another one on Sunday. If not on this channel, we'll do it on William Young's. And we will have some more content being laid out throughout the week. So as always, guys, thank you for making this dialogue even better. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have a discussion. So as always, guys, stay safe.